The graduation address gives us an opportunity to hear from a distinguished member of our alumni community. And we're indeed fortunate today that the address will be delivered by Ms. Romy Katz. Ms. Katz is a teacher and careers counsellor and has taught for many years in different sectors. She's worked for the Ronald McDonald House Charities and ran their education program. This is where her passion for community involvement and philanthropy was ignited. In 2014, Ms. Katz started a business called Agents for Change, where she runs educational workshops in schools with the aim to promote social action and empathy. Ms. Katz also runs Hangout for the Homeless, the only family sleep out that raises funds for youth homelessness. She's currently Head of Education and Events and an advisory board member for Kids in Philanthropy. And I have much pleasure in inviting Ms. Romy Katz to deliver the graduation address.
Deputy Chancellor Mr Yehudi Blatcher, Provost and Senior Vice President Professor Mark Lange, Dean of Faculty of Education Professor John Logren, members of the faculty, ladies and gentlemen, and new graduates. I must admit I was very surprised when I received the invitation to speak to you today. At first I was filled with trepidation, but as I reflected on this great honour, I recognised the prospect of speaking to a group of like-minded people and explaining how education and teaching has opened a world of opportunity for me. However, before I get to this, there are two important items I need to raise. Firstly, congratulations. Every one of you have dedicated yourselves to your learning and attained what I believe to be one of the most important tertiary degrees. You have earned the right to shape the minds of others. Secondly, I'm guessing, sitting around you, are people who helped and encouraged you with your studies. So at some stage today, don't forget to say thanks and tell them how integral they have been in enabling you to sit here today as a proud graduate. So why am I here talking to you? Well, I started my career as a teacher, completing a double degree in teaching and applied science. I went forth, like many of you will, and I took on a teaching job in a private school. I worked there for 6 years and absolutely loved it. Each day was a challenge, a new learning experience, and a joy. I threw in a Masters of Education along the way, and I was just loving my chosen vocation. Teaching gave me the opportunity to have great pride in the achievements of my students. But as many of you may see, life can get in the way of, well, life. As my family grew and I had less time to spend in the classroom, I moved to teaching part-time. Somewhat unfulfilled with this, I searched for new opportunities. And this is when I first realised an education degree can literally take you anywhere. My first venture out of the classroom was running an education program for Ronald McDonald House Charities. This was an eye-opening and very different to the classroom. I was having first-hand experience with families affected by illness, accident, and lifelong injuries. These were young kids who were unable to fulfil educational requirements of school because they were simply too ill or injured and needed such extreme medical intervention that their education was secondary. Some students were starting to recover and then came onto our program to try and do a quick catch-up before starting back in mainstream education. Working daily with these families, whilst emotionally draining, was surprisingly inspiring. I quickly learnt something about myself. I had an intrinsic desire to help others. Maybe that's why I became a teacher. Maybe that's why you're all sitting here with education degrees. But it took me until then to realise I needed to do more. This experience guided me to philanthropy, which is the field I now work in full-time. I began working in philanthropy with a strong education focus. I soon decided that youth and philanthropy was my thing. I opened a business called Agents for Change under the banner of Kids in Philanthropy, or KIP, which is a not-for-profit. We go into schools and teach both kids and teachers all about philanthropy and volunteering. KIP also run hands-on volunteering sessions for families, an annual fundraiser called Hangout for the Homeless, among many other programs, all with the aim to create the next generation of change makers. I believe if you teach kids whilst they are young to be kind, empathetic, and to take action for injustices in life, then they will grow to be caring adults that look at philanthropy as a daily activity and embed it in all aspects of their lives. I joined the Kids in Philanthropy board, and along with a few other boards, I merged all my worlds, with the key focus area, kids, education, and philanthropy. So for those of you who might be sitting there thinking, that sounds good, but I have no idea what philanthropy is, don't worry, you're not alone. Most people have heard the term, think it's about donating money, and just don't get how kids can do it. The word philanthropy simply means love of humanity. So when we put it like that, obviously, kids, adults, anyone can do it. It's all about giving your time, your talent, or your treasure. What I'm pushing is simply a way for kids to feel good through giving, to think of others, build empathy, which in turn has beneficial effects on lowering bullying and increasing self-esteem. At the same time, the kids are learning all about the issues we face in Australia and growing a sense of responsibility to be part of the solution. So that's a background to me, a teaching graduate who used the skills I learned at university and in the classroom to find my passion. And for what it's worth, it now gives me the opportunity to give you some advice as you transition from uni to work in the education space. Now, I have 3 kids whom I constantly give advice to, and they all ignore me. So I'm really excited and hopeful today might be a little different. Advice number 1, even though you are now all educators, don't forget to be active learners. You can't be a great teacher of anything unless you are also a learner. I don't just mean learn your trade or field, but learn from everyone you encounter. Ask questions, be an inquirer, and remember that wherever you are, no matter what or who you are talking to, you have an opportunity to learn from them. Some of the most important lessons I learnt about myself and my teaching came from my students. I'm constantly learning from the kids I'm working with. I was talking to a young person who was once homeless. They were telling me about their experiences and told me a story about how they had collected a handwritten note from a drop-in centre in the city, which, by the way, I later found out one of my students had written. They kept that small note of inspiration with them for weeks whilst they squatted in an abandoned warehouse, alone. Each day waking up to look at the note and tell themselves, someone cares. This young person is now working full-time, living in a flat with a partner and a child, and still has that note in their bedside table. So what I learnt from that short conversation was that every little bit counts. A note that took a student 5 minutes to write changed someone's life completely. Taking the time to listen and learn can be a life-changing experience. Advice number 2, be open to new things in all aspects of your life, but especially in education, as it can take you anywhere and lead you to places you didn't think were in your realm. We often get asked to do things out of our comfort zone, especially in teaching. Oh, you teach VCE psychology? Great. We're also giving you Year 7 science, health and human development. It's all sort of the same field, right? You're a new teacher absolutely dying, thinking, I can't teach that, but you can. You've learnt the basics to teaching, mediation and learning, so have a go. Back yourself. Put yourself in the uncomfortable position and you will grow as an educator. And yes, I did teach Year 7 and 8 science and Year 8 health and sex education, and I survived, just. Which follows nicely to my next bit of advice. Number 3, failure. We are so scared to fail, it often stops us doing new things or taking risks. But did you ever take the time to think about how we change our attitude to failure as we age? kids don't let failures stop them from learning new skills. Can you imagine? No one would learn to ride a bike, a skill that has a high percentage of failure in order to learn and master. And the stakes are high too. I mean, most others can do it, so there's peer pressure. It's scary, we fall or fail, which constantly hurts us. And we have to in order to succeed. Everyone does it, kids learn to ride bikes every day. But as we grow, we have more and more small failures and learn to fear failure. As a result, avoid it where we can. But why? Failure should not only be a negative experience, it provides us with lots of learning opportunities. I've had some epic failures in the classroom, and all you need to do is own it. Call it what it is, don't cover it up. Most importantly, learn from it. Reflect on what caused the failure. What went wrong? Try it again, but this time with improvements. The most successful people will tell you it wasn't until they failed that they could see what success might look like. In the car on the way home from school, I asked my youngest two a set of questions about their day. What did you learn? What did you love? What could you leave? And what was your epic fail of the day that we can learn from? Most importantly, I tell them my day's failures. Sometimes work-related, sometimes social, sometimes it's their dinner, they don't love that. What we need to do more of is be open to failure, which will allow us to learn at more rapid rates, have greater and more meaningful experiences in life, and be honest with ourselves and others. J.K. Rowling puts it best. It's impossible to live without failing at something unless you live so cautiously that you might as well not have lived at all, in which case you fail by default. The final piece of advice I want to leave you with is probably the most important. Do good, help others, be kind, and your life will be full. There's nothing else to it. Make an impact on others' lives, big or small. I mentioned that I sit on a few boards. Some of those positions are strategic and some are hands-on. One of my jobs is apparel for the local footy club, among other things. Yep, sounds boring. I literally make sure that the 1,025 kids at the club, from the under 8s to under 17s, have a uniform that fits at the start of the season. It seems like a terrible job, and usually it is. But when I turn up to a home game and I look around at all the kids on the field who are engaged in sport, a club, a community, and I know I was an important part of making that happen. So some of the things I do are significant in size, like helping the homeless, and some are small, like dressing kids for footy, but every little bit counts. We create a ripple effect of kindness. When someone does something nice for you, it's natural that we in turn want to do something nice for them or another person. So today, sitting here as new graduates, you're about to embark on the small task of shaping and growing the minds of our future. Sure, it may seem daunting, but if you can impart kindness, empathy, and a sense of responsibility, mixed with a little numeracy and literacy, you will have more than just done your job. You will have triumphed and created long-lasting impact. Good luck to you all.